All right. Cool. So like I said, we're talking today about thinking about your farm business, what that might look like, thinking through what markets you might want to sell to if you're growing for production and sales, identifying some markets, thinking about different tools you can use to promote your business, to create a brand identity, to create that kind of emotional connection to potential customers, for folks who want to buy produce from you directly, what that might look like. And then we'll talk a little bit about communication and marketing tools too that you can use to promote yourself. So just a brief overview. We'll talk about some farm business planning, what that can take shape as, what that might look like. Some different markets, identifying direct and indirect market types, to kind of think through like what might make the most sense for you as you're planning out your business goals and your sales goals, or thinking about which markets you'd like to sell to if that's something you want to do this year. And then marketing your business, and again talking through some tools and some ways to do that. And then at the end we'll open it up just for discussion, to have a question and answer session if you want to ask any questions at the end, or just share information with each other. And somewhere in between that, we'll probably take about a 5 to 10 minute break so folks can get up and get a glass of water or use the bathroom. But yeah, let's jump into it. Can you all see the slides changing on your side?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think I'm just having slow.
Oh, go ahead. They didn't change for me, Matt. I don't know if
I'm having
else is
slow
having
connection issues on my side. Is anybody else having issues seeing the slides change?
Yeah, it also didn't change for me. It's still on the first slide.
Okay.
Same here.
Mm,
Same here.
okay.
How about now?
Yep,
Here we
good.
go.
Yeah, okay.
It works.
Success. All right, 1 second. So first things first, thinking about your business plan, what that might look like. What is a business plan? You kind of think of it as a tool or a roadmap or a framework for success. It's a tool that can guide your business growth as you're starting out and thinking about, like I said, like what markets do you want to grow and sell to? I know a lot of you have probably already attended the crop planning class or started thinking about, what seeds or what crops you'd like to grow for this season. So it can include all that information, just thinking ahead, kind of zooming out big picture, planning for, if you have a sales goal for the year, what that might look like, how to generate revenue for your business, if that's one of your goals, and making a profit. So tracking, what types of produce you want to sell, what markets you'd like to sell to, and then how much, money you want to set as a goal for making for yourself. The business plan can also explain what products or services you might offer. So again, just thinking about what types of produce you want to sell, if there's other opportunities or other products you might be interested in. As an example, further along in the education program this season, I think probably in March, we're going to do a class talking about value-added products. So that could be another potential revenue stream or income generating opportunity for you as a farmer as you're thinking through your business plans. You can, again, kind of zoom out big picture and think about different opportunities for bringing in money for selling different things. So if you want to, you could just focus on selling organic produce, and you could just focus on one market, like say a farmer's market, or your own independent CSA program. But it's also, first year, as you're getting your feet wet and kind of figuring out what that might look like. I would say start small, and you can always scale up from there instead of trying to chew off a whole lot at once, especially as you're getting started. So just a tip to keep in mind, to start small and scale up from there, because it's easier to grow as you become more experienced and learn more as you get your hands dirty and create partnerships and relationships with potential markets or buyers for your produce. And then, continue to scale up and grow if that's one of your goals. It's much more difficult to start off really large and have to scale back. So just something to keep in mind. The other part of the business plan is thinking about, just thinking through all those steps, how you plan to connect and create those relationships with buyers or markets, what expenses you might incur up front, thinking through purchasing seeds or tools, paying for, permits or licenses or insurance. So those come to mind when thinking about selling to places like farmers markets that might have some of those requirements to have a certain level of insurance. And depending on what you sell, you might have to get specific types of permits from either the city or the State Department of Agriculture. And then maybe thinking through as you're developing your business plan, maybe researching some loan opportunities or some grant opportunities to help fund some of those startup costs to support you in your market and your business goals and what that might look like. So just another thing to think about as part of that overarching business plan or that framework for success, thinking about finances and loans or grant opportunities. The things that are laid out here are kind of going more in depth about, how you shape that framework for what your business might look like. So the first bullet point on this slide is creating a mission and a vision. And these are really tools to help you explore what your business is all about and how you want to present those values to potential customers or potential buyers. So a mission and a vision can explain what your business is and what your business goals are. It's great to keep it kind of short and succinct, but also detailed enough that those points come across. So again, that it explains what your business is and what your goals are. And can contain values that you use to operate. So think about, maybe different social or cultural or environmental values that you can use when you're developing your mission statement. Just to give you an example, Big River Farms mission is growing farmers, growing food. So fairly short, fairly simple, 4-word mission statement, but detailed enough that it tells a bit of a story, right? It's talking about the first part is focused kind of on our educational focus, growing farmers with a nod to farming, and growing food with more of that focus towards the physical farming and kind of going back into thinking about like why we exist as an organization, right? To support farmers, to support the growth of healthy food, to support you as you start your businesses. An example of a vision, I'll continue with the Big River Farms information to give you some insight. So the farm vision is our work empowers farmers and strengthens our community by building a more sustainable and just food system. So a little bit more detailed, not kind of that main mission that people see right up front, but it goes into more depth about kind of the what. So that mission can really be thought of as like why you exist, and the vision is more of what you do or how you might go about doing it. And kind of digging deeper down into that, you can also have strategic drivers or values that kind of dig into that what and that how that you're meeting your business mission further. So for example, Big River Farms strategic drivers to meet that vision and mission are providing land access, education, and market access to beginning farmers. So again, just laying out more of those details and going into some more depth about how you're planning to reach your vision and your mission. So again, this is all just kind of a big brainstorm framework as you're thinking about your business plan, as you're thinking about how you're like presenting yourself, both as an individual, as a farmer, and as a business to potential buyers and potential customers, and really sharing those values that ground you in the work, right? Like think about why you got into farming, what makes you passionate about it, what your connection to it is from an emotional standpoint or a cultural standpoint or an environmental standpoint, and coming up with some language to share those things with other folks that you might be trying to connect with. The last thing on here is creating a value proposition. So think about, like, you know, as you're beginning to farm, bigger picture, there's a lot of other, you know, local farmers. So the value proposition could be thought of as, you know, what makes you as a farmer, or what makes your farm business unique? Is it a particular story? Is it unique products or produce that you're selling and growing? Really describes your unique selling point and highlights your products or services and what you plan to offer. You can think of it as a statement that depicts why customers should choose to buy from you as opposed to other folks. You know, you could highlight again your personal connection to farming and how you got into it. You can highlight the specific growing practices, like, you know, Big River Farms is certified organic, so that could be used as a selling point in your value proposition. Talking about the environmental benefits of organic and why that's important, or how that connects to your values as a farmer. So lots of things to think about. But again, that value proposition is really a story that's or a statement describing what makes you and your business unique, and how you can stand out from the potential competition in the marketplace. It can also identify benefits that customers might receive, and again, why your produce or services are either valuable or how they compare and are unique to other potential produce or products in the marketplace. Just looking at the notes real quick, I saw somebody asked if they could get the slides. Definitely. I emailed out a copy of the PDF, or a PDF of the slides in an email yesterday, but I can definitely send those out again at the end of class. And we're recording this too, so I'll send out a recording of the video from today's class in case anyone would like to watch it again, or for folks who couldn't be here in attendance today. So definitely able to send that out. All right. Market analysis. What is market analysis? This really is a topic that digs into conducting research to figure out what exists in the local marketplace where your business is, and is there room for growth or unique opportunities for the products and the services that your farm business might be providing. So really think of this as just like the research phase of developing your business plan, of collecting data, of, you know, going to direct sale markets like farmers markets, or, you know, local food co-ops or grocery stores, and seeing what's available from local farmers there, and kind of figuring out, you know, what makes the most sense for you as a farmer and as a beginning business person. knowing your marketplace is key as you're starting off, and figuring out again what your products are, what services you might provide, and again how they might be unique or different from other offerings in the marketplace to really draw people in and create that emotional connection, create that story, and ultimately create success for your business. The second point on there, data is your friend. So that graphic on the right lists all sorts of potential data that you could research or look into. Thinking about cultural trends, financial aspects of the market. As farmers, of course, you know that the weather is really important and can play a role from season to season. So thinking about weather trends, transportation as a business owner and as a farmer, definitely a big expense up front. So thinking through what makes the most sense for you as far as how you'll transport the produce you grow. If you already have a vehicle, or if you're able to rent a vehicle or partner up with other local farmers to create more of a collective ownership opportunity. But just thinking through some of those aspects of what exists, what opportunities are there for your business, and how can you gather all that information up front to inform your business plan and ultimately make your business successful. So research is your friend, data is your friend. Some different types of other data you could look into or research are, local trends, food trends in different like products or packaging at grocery stores. And that's really focused more again on that like value added aspect if you're selling more than just direct produce. For example, if you wanted to create jams or juices or in-seed fermented goods, sauerkraut, anything that uses produce you might grow and processes it in some way and is then packaged in a can or a bottle or some sort of container with branding on it that really tells the story of your business and your business identity. So that's really focused more on that value added aspect that I mentioned before. But again, maybe go into a grocery store, go into farmers markets in the cities and figuring out, what exists, what's out there, and what opportunities are there for you to create something new or unique. Knowing your customers is also really huge. So think about who you want to connect with as far as potential customers or buyers. Are you growing directly for your family and your community? Do you want to grow larger scale for some wholesale accounts, right? So like schools or hospitals, churches. Are there larger communities outside of kind of your direct community where you live or that you work with that you want to try and target? You could do some research on, there's a ton of farmers markets in the Twin Cities and throughout Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. And some online resources where you can look those things up, some directories that list all those various farmers markets. So just thinking through who you'd like to sell to, thinking about geography, if you live in a specific place but come out to the farm, what makes the most sense, both time-wise and financially for you? Maybe, you're farming at big river farms and you want to sell directly at a farmer's market nearby. So maybe you would do some research into existing farmers markets in Marine on St. Croix and Stillwater, maybe Hudson across the river in Wisconsin. Or maybe you're coming to big river farms to farm, but you live in the Twin Cities. So doing some research just on like different farmers markets that exist in the Twin Cities, and who the customers are that come to those markets. So kind of a 2-for-1, thinking about existing markets, doing some of that research, and thinking about who you want your customers to be, and doing some research there as well, and how those two kind of interconnect. After you're a little bit more established, you can think about doing additional kind of market analysis, data analysis on your customers, on your existing customers. So for example, one way we've done that at Big River Farms with our community supported agriculture program is by creating and distributing a CSA survey at the end of every season in the fall. And that's really a good way to gather feedback from customers from the past season, and figure out, what they liked, if there were things they didn't like, identifying some successes and challenges from kind of that customer standpoint, as opposed to the farmer standpoint or the business standpoint, and just getting that valuable feedback and that information to then inform how you might change or evolve your business plan for the following season. Some more information on value propositions. Again, you can think about, other farmers, doing some of that research. What else exists? Who are the other farmers that you might be competing with? And how can you differentiate yourself? Again, kind of thinking back to like the farmers market idea, that direct sale opportunity. I'd encourage you to go to some local farmers markets, just get a sense of who the vendors are there and what they're selling. If you find a farmers market that's really well established and has a lot of produce vendors, that could potentially be a good opportunity to go, especially if the produce that you're growing is not being offered by a lot of the same vendors. If you have something unique that you can sell to differentiate yourself and to bring customers to your stand, that's a great opportunity. Alternatively, if you find a local farmers market that's more geared towards producers who make value-added products, both packaged and canned goods, or is more focused on craft goods like clothing or artwork, knitted goods, things like that, that might be a good opportunity as a farmer who grows produce, organic produce, to be a vendor, because there might not be a lot of other vendors at that particular farmers market who are selling produce. So there might be more opportunity there for you to create connections with customers and have a bigger impact with your sales. Branding, I mentioned earlier, but haven't talked a whole lot about, but thinking as you're starting up your farm and your business, thinking about, again, how you're like visually telling that story through materials that you create. So for example, like on this slide, on this whole presentation, you can see all those fruits and veggies on the kind of the left-hand side, and then along the bottom there is the Big River Farms logo. And those are kind of examples of branding, or how we as an organization, as the food group and as a program at Big River Farms, are kind of visually displaying what we do through graphics that kind of grab people's attention. They're bright and colorful. They're very specific to what we do. It tells a story, right? We're connected to food. We're connected to fruits and vegetables. We're connected to farming. There's kind of that nod to a wheelbarrow full of colorful produce in the Big River Farms logo. So think through what that might look like for your business, for your farming business. What kind of visuals might attract the attention of customers or buyers? How might it tell your story? Think about the name of your farm and what you want that to display, or like what story that will depict to potential customers and buyers. So that's what I mean by branding. It's really that name of your business, but also the visual kind of logo or visual graphics that really tell that story to people, that like first connection, that first visual connection to potential customers and buyers, and how it tells that story about yourself or your business. Going back to the value proposition piece, again, going back to like thinking about how are you providing unique products or services or opportunities in an existing marketplace or in an existing product line. If you're thinking about doing value-added products, are you providing something new or something unique that doesn't exist or isn't already available in abundance from other local farmers or other local producers? And then what potential exists to grow into other markets? So again, thinking through you know, do you want to sell in your first year to maybe one market and really like hone in your relationships there and figure out the logistics on the back end, on your side, on the business side of things, and kind of make that really a solid plan. And then maybe in your second and third years, you think about branching out into different markets. So big picture, you know, thinking like 5 years down the line, where do you want your business as a farmer to be? Differentiating and diversifying the markets that you sell to can really help your business not only survive, but really thrive, right? Thinking about, again, that idea of like starting small and scaling up and growing bigger as you become more experienced and you establish more of those potential market relationships. I'll say too that just thinking over the past few years with, I know somebody mentioned thinking about markets in relationship to COVID over the past 2 years. And that's a really good point here is that, you know, if you have one, if you're kind of throwing all your eggs in one basket as far as markets go, if there is something that happens like a natural disaster or something like COVID, like a big, you know, a pandemic that's worldwide that's impacting markets, how can you shift, or are there other markets that you have established that can support you, so that if there is something unexpectedly happens and you only have one market, you have other opportunities that can still support your business. So for example, like when COVID hit 2 years ago, a lot of wholesale accounts closed temporarily as restaurants and schools and farmers markets were kind of potentially on hold because of concerns about the virus spreading. So that was an opportunity for a lot of farmers and a lot of food and agriculture businesses to really like rely on other existing markets, but also to shift in how they approach sales, or how they approach potential customers and clients and buyers, with that wholesale opportunity being temporarily on hold. So there was a big growth in CSA farms, farmers who went into that community supported agriculture model because it was a direct connection to potential customers without having to go through a third party like a grocery or a wholesale buyer or a school. And because farmers markets were temporarily on hold, that was also another great opportunity to just do that like direct sale to the customers without having to be part of more of a kind of formal direct buying opportunity like a farmer's market. Although those did come back, and that, you know, things are slowly kind of coming back from all those sides. You know, farmers markets have been going on for a while now with just more precautions in place because of COVID, and restaurants and schools have been kind of reopening, and more wholesale accounts have been coming back online. But anyways, that's all to say, it's good to think about diversifying your markets as you're putting together your business plan and your value proposition, so that you have some kind of insurance or stability built in place in case something happens to one of your other markets. And so you can shift and be flexible with your business plan. As far as what makes your business unique, here's a few ideas to think about. So again, thinking about the variety of produce or products and services that you might provide. An example of a service could be doing something like landscaping services. So I know a few farmers at Big River have approached their business planning through that framework in the past of really wanting to focus on growing produce, and that being kind of the main passion and the main revenue stream of their business plan, but then providing a service like you know, mowing lawns or pruning trees as kind of an ongoing side service to bring in additional cash to fund that kind of main passion of growing and selling food. So just thinking through, again, like as you're business planning, what that might look like. If you're creating additional products, value-added products, thinking about what type of ingredients you're using and how you can focus on those ingredients in either your branding or your mission and vision statements, really thinking back to that like story or that emotional connection that you're trying to share with customers or buyers. Sourcing practices, again, this can play into that idea of storytelling or value sharing. Talking about, if you grow organically, what that means and why it's important to you as an individual and as a business, and why that might be important to your customers or your buyers, and creating that, again, that emotional connection, so that there's some, not just like transactional buy-in from people who are purchasing your food, but really creating that emotional connection to bring people back, create that stronger bond. Packaging and branding, we talked a little bit about before with value-added products at either farmers markets or grocery stores, but again, how does that tell your story? How does that make your business unique? Availability and convenience of your food. I feel like convenience is always front of mind for folks these days, especially with all these new like subscription services and direct delivery services. So think about how convenience and availability of your produce or your products and services plays into your business plan, and how that might make you innovative or unique, and how that can play into your story that you're sharing. I will say that for the community supported agriculture model, that's kind of one of the main opportunities or ways that people connect as customers. I think convenience plays a big role there, because they want that direct connection to you as a farmer, and they want the convenience of having food delivered directly from the farm, either to them, to their house, or to their place of business, or, in our case, in a lot of other farmers' cases, we work with outside business partners, like retail stores or libraries or individuals who are part of the CSA program who use their homes as drop sites. So, for example, Big River Farms CSA has 14 different partners that we work with throughout the Twin Cities and the Marino, St. Croix, and Stillwater area. And folks usually sign up for our CSA and they kind of pick which drop site they want based on where they live or where they work. So convenience is a big way that kind of model is unique from others, and plays a big role in why people connect to it. So something to think about is your business planning. And I've talked a lot about like that connection, creating that connection between you as a farmer and potential buyers or customers, and what that might look like. So that really all comes down to building relationships. Not only thinking through like how your mission and your vision and your story is connecting emotionally with folks that you're trying to sell to, but really just building those personal one-on-one relationships, either directly with wholesale buyers and the folks that manage those opportunities in those markets, or one-on-one if you're selling directly through a CSA or at a farmer's market, really creating that like face-to-face connection and creating personal relationships, because that really builds a strong foundation for ongoing, sales and business opportunities in the future. And then customer experience. What makes your customer experience unique in a market that's full of all sorts of other opportunities and products? Kind of frame it through that lens as well. And you can think about personal relationships playing into that. Again, like maybe that's more unique than people just going to a big box grocery store and not having a personal connection to who their farmer is or who grows the food that they're purchasing. I'd say I would encourage everyone to like really think about that and play that up as you're starting as a new farmer. Like, how can you directly connect with the people that you're selling to? I think that's a big reason why people join community supported agriculture programs, is because they want that direct connection to their farmer, to knowing you not only as a business, but knowing you as a person, and again, creating that kind of connection of shared values and creating that emotional connection. Something else you can think about is, again, this makes me think of the community supported agriculture model, is not only are you providing, produce that you're selling or a product that you're creating with produce you grow or a potential service. But as you're creating your business plan, think about, are there experiences that you can provide too? And that might not be a big like revenue generator, but is a potential opportunity for creating some of those personal experiences with customers and buyers, or of assisting in building those relationships with those folks. So I mentioned CSA because, you know, pre-pandemic, it's happened to a certain extent now, but definitely less than it was before the pandemic hit. But I think that was a really, both CSA and farmers market is a really great way as a farmer and as a business person to connect directly face to face with people, to create not only that kind of transactional sale of you growing produce and selling it to somebody, but of creating an opportunity to provide more of an experience, right? That's why farmers markets are great, because it's not just you as an individual selling to a bunch of potential customers, but there's more of an experience that people who come get to be a part of, right? Of the smells and the sights and the sounds, and speaking to you directly as a farmer, meeting other friends or community members there to have conversations. And maybe it's an ongoing like weekend ritual or an after work ritual that people are kind of establishing in their daily routines. So it's, again, it's not just that like transactional sale, but it's kind of creating more of an experience, if that makes sense. For CSA, it was really like, it still is, like I said, to a certain extent happening, but pre-COVID, I think part of the big way that customers connected with community supported agriculture sales was by physically coming to the farm where the food is being produced, right? So that's not necessarily bringing you in any more income or any more revenue as a farmer, but it's creating that connection. It's helping to elevate your brand and your business, your brand identity and your business, and it's creating that emotional connection and like connection to not only you as a farmer and to your food that you're growing, but also a connection to place, right? Like inviting people to come to your farm, to come see how the food is grown, or inviting people that you sell food to come out and help volunteer at your farm, to get their hands dirty, to experience really firsthand where their food is coming from, and tapping into that, you know, again, that emotional perspective of creating connections, creating relationships, and providing more of an experience outside of just selling directly. So really thinking about all the senses too. I know I mentioned that as far as like the farmer's market experience, right? It's really about not just that sale, but thinking about taste and touch and smell. How does that all play into, you know, an experience that you might be providing? And then continuing on this business plan topic, we've been talking about this for a little bit, but again, think about what products and services you might create or sell as you're thinking through your business plan. I talked about services a little bit earlier, but some other opportunities outside of landscaping, you know, could include like creating edible garden plans for folks, teaching classes like this, right? If you are really passionate and experienced in a particular aspect of farming or something completely unrelated, but still, you know, it could be food and farming related, or it could be something totally different. But are there opportunities as, you know, a farmer, as an entrepreneur, as someone who's potentially starting a business, that this is another way that you can diversify potential income and revenue streams, right? So maybe you teach classes on the side, and that provides some steady income that you can then put towards your farming business. But it's all within kind of the bigger business plan of what you're doing. Maybe you do some consulting work or designing farm plots for other upstart farmers and beginning farmers. Or farm equipment support. You know, maybe you're really handy with tractor maintenance or tool maintenance, and you can use that as an opportunity on the side, again, to have some more steady income coming in that then you use to buy additional seeds or open up other market opportunities for yourself. So think through what that might look like. Like I said a few times before, just like start small, get your hands dirty in a few different areas, figure out what makes sense for you, both from a capacity perspective and from a business perspective. So laying out those goals, but then also taking a step back and recognizing how much time you as an individual have, how much money you have available, what those resources might look like. If there's other business partners you have, or if you have friends and family who are helping you out, what does that labor capacity look like, and how does that play into your business plan? So lots of things to think about there too, as you're identifying your products and services and how to start in your first or second year, and what that might look like in the future, 3, 4, 5 years from now. And I mentioned earlier, a few slides back too, just identifying your audience, knowing your customers, establishing a relationship with those folks one-on-one, and defining who those people are that you want to connect with. Where do they live? What is their income level? How do they currently buy products or produce like the ones that you're planning to grow? Thinking about the competition again, right? Like, who else sells produce and products like yours? How can you encourage the audience or the customers or the buyers that you're trying to connect with to purchase directly from you, as opposed to another farmer or another business? And again, just reiterating what I said before, like, think about it as more than just a transaction or a sale, but really trying to create that personal connection through your brand and your storytelling, and tapping into the emotions of the customers or the buyers that you're trying to connect with to create that strong connection. So I've mentioned the term brand identity a few times, and I wanted to go a little bit deeper into what that means. But I mentioned there's just a bigger blow up on the right-hand side here of that Big River Farms food group logo, of the wheelbarrow with kind of the abstract, colorful produce in it. And again, it's really just like how you visually are presenting and narratively presenting your business, or your farm. Think about the colors you're using. What is the emotional response to the colors that you're using? Is there a cultural connection to the colors in your brand that you're using, that you're visualizing to tell your story? And you can think about things besides colors and graphics, like the illustrated ones that are shown on this slide and that have been in this presentation. So think about use of photos or videos as you're developing your brand identity. A lot of upstart businesses now use social media because it's free to use if you have access to the technology to access it, a laptop or a computer or a smartphone, an internet connection or a cell phone connection. So think about what tools you can use to promote yourself and to share stories through photos and videos and graphics. Again, to create that connection to potential customers and buyers, and to really to continue to tell your story. So social media is a great tool to do that. Websites can be used to do that too. That takes a little bit more time to develop something like that, or to hire somebody to help you build out a website. But there's a lot of great kind of user-friendly tools online that are available either for free or at a fairly low cost to entry. Start creating your brand identity online, and to create a website where folks can come learn more about you and your farm. And again, use it as a tool to both promote your products and your services, but also as a way to tell that story, and develop your brand identity further. some other ways to think about this, if you create a logo and a name for your farm, what other tools and materials can you use to really like market yourself and highlight that brand identity? So I was having a conversation recently over email with one of our farmers who's in their 3rd or 4th year at this point at Big River Farms, and talking about ways to highlight that brand identity at direct markets like a farmer's market, when it's you as an individual, as a farmer, selling directly to the customer and not going through a third-party buyer. So we talked about opportunities for her to use her farm name and her logo on other materials besides like a banner or a tablecloth at the booth where she was selling at the farmer's market. So thinking about things like tote bags or t-shirts or other ways that she could display that brand identity and that would connect with customers. So for example, like if she decided to create a t-shirt with her farm name and her brand on it and wear it while she's at the farmer's market, any customer who came up or any person who came up to talk with her to see what she was selling would immediately see that logo, that brand identity on her t-shirt, and might ask a question about it. It might create an opportunity for engagement and for conversation and for storytelling and sharing of values and connection to why she does what she does. It might create that relational opportunity or that conversation opportunity. But for customers who might come to that farmer's market on a consistent basis, it creates that kind of mental note that, oh yeah, this farmer is connected to this visual, this brand, and I remember it because I had that conversation. I like physically saw the logo or the name, and I have that like mental connection, and maybe that visual is now connected to the conversation I had with the farmer. So again, it's thinking about like bridging that gap between your values and what you're doing, how you visualize that in your brand identity, in your logo and the visuals, the photos or the graphics you use to represent your business and yourself, and then how are you creating that emotional connection or that relationship through that brand identity with customers and buyers. Taking a step back to business planning, this is all about business planning, right? So brand identity, value proposition, mission and vision statement. It's really setting up that framework for success. So think about sales goals. That's a huge piece of business planning, right? And we've talked about it a little bit today, but really think about, again, what all goes into the coming growing season. Think about how many seeds you might need to purchase. I know you've all started thinking about crop planning or went to, you may have attended the crop planning class already. Like I mentioned before, think about what all goes into harvest and delivery. Are you paying to purchase a vehicle? Are you renting one? Like I said before, are you collaborating and cooperating with a bunch of other farmers to have some shared resources and how much money might be going into that? So think about all the money you might need to spend, and then how much revenue or how much profit you might be making. If you have other folks who are farming with you, you might think about, are you paying them? Are they volunteering? Is there some money? Is there some transactions, financial transactions happening there? And really just zooming out big picture, thinking about, financial planning, not only your sales goals for how much produce or products you want to produce and sell, but also thinking towards the future as you're transitioning and evolving your business plan. How much money might you need for larger purchases down the road, like tools or equipment, maybe a tractor? That's all to say, just think about the present, think about what your short-term goals are, look ahead a few years and think about what some longer-term goals might be, set those sales goals, and then maybe set an annual goal to identify steps you can take to reach those sales goals. And finally, definitely connected to that as part of the business plan is really identifying what your market might be. So I know we've talked about markets and marketing, and I think sometimes the language is confusing because those words are so similar. But markets is really just those either physical places or those opportunities for selling your produce, your food, value-added products, your services. And marketing is really a tool to help you do that, to help you communicate and promote what you're selling or what you're growing. So as part of your business plan, think about what those physical markets or those physical relationships might be, those opportunities for selling your produce or your products and services. And I've mentioned it a few times, but there's kind of two main market types: direct markets and indirect markets. And we'll dive into that a little bit further in the next few slides, but I wanted to allow time for breaks. I know we're at like 2:20, so we've got about 40 minutes left, and I want to make sure we have time at the end too for some question and answers. So let's maybe take a 5-minute break and come back at 2:25. So feel free to get up and stretch, grab some water, go to the bathroom if you need to, and we will be back in 5 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, we're going to jump back into it. Hope you had a bit of a minute for a break. Thanks for coming back and joining. So I just mentioned markets, right? Identifying what your markets are going to be, and that being a big piece of the business planning puzzle. And I mentioned, there's kind of two types of potential markets: direct market and indirect market. So let's start with direct market. What does that look like? Direct markets are where you as a farmer, as a business person, sell directly to potential customers. Again, really creating that like face-to-face connection, or that opportunity to directly engage with potential customers. So some different ways that this can take shape is a community-supported agriculture program, like I mentioned earlier, creating shares or boxes of weekly or bi-weekly deliveries direct from you as the farmer to potential customers. And again, depending on the way that that's set up, there might be opportunities for that face-to-face connection, for creating that relationship, for establishing that relationship between you and customers. Or it might present those opportunities, like I said, where you invite people who are members of your CSA program to come to the farm to either pick up their food or to volunteer and meet you directly. But either way, you're creating that kind of direct connection through the sale, and through the potential for establishing those relationships. Farmers markets, as I mentioned a bunch throughout this presentation, it's another great direct market. Again, selling directly as the farmer to potential customers, having that great opportunity to meet face-to-face with people that you're selling food to and establish that relationship. On a smaller scale, it could look like a farm or a market stand. This could be if you had your own independent farm, if you were farming on property outside of big river farms, in the cities or where you live. There could be that direct market opportunity of setting up a booth or a table or some sort of structure where you're selling your food directly to people at the location where you're growing it. And think about not just kind of these ongoing, established, kind of more formal markets, but other kind of one-off opportunities too. So this kind of ties back into thinking about not just like the products and the food that you're growing, but also like, are there other services or other opportunities to diversify your market? So think about that from this perspective too of direct markets, right? Like maybe your main market is a CSA or indirect market is a farmer's market. But there could be other opportunities throughout the season too, that present that direct market opportunity, like a food festival or a block party. You might not make a ton of income or revenue off something like that, but if there's an opportunity to tap into an existing kind of event that's like, maybe it's an annual event, maybe it's a music festival, maybe it's a block party, maybe it's a food-focused event with a bunch of vendors and food trucks. But are there opportunities like that where you can come as a vendor, as a farmer, and set up shop, open up a booth, set up a table, bring in a delivery truck or a food truck, and sell directly, create that direct connection, sell directly to potential customers at an event. And if it's a well-established event that's been going on for years, that's an annual thing, that's a great opportunity to connect with potential customers, and reconnect with them year after year. Establish those relationships, create those connections, share your story, highlight your brand and your brand identity, and get potential ongoing customers in the future. And again, it might not be a ton of money coming in just on that one event, but it's a great way to create those relationships and make sure that they're not just a one-off, relationship, a one-off transaction or sales opportunity, but a way to maintain those relationships and encourage those customers to continue to support your business as you grow over the years. So it's a good face-to-face opportunity, even if you're not making a ton of money, and a good way to tap into potential customer bases through whoever is the host of an event like that. The next one, the next direct market opportunity on here is fairly similar in that it might not be your main source of income or revenue, but another potential opportunity for connecting with customers over, maybe think about doing something like catering, if that might play into your business plan, or going back to diversifying your markets and your opportunities. If you're teaching classes, maybe it's connected to food. Maybe you teach cooking classes at a grocery store, a food co-op, or a library or community center, and use that both as a revenue stream, maybe charge folks to come to your class, cook something, create that connection, not only that personal relationship connection, but also that connection directly to food, right? You're playing into those other senses, the sight, the smell, the taste, the sound of cooking. And you can bring, some of your branded gear, your brand identity information, whether it's a t-shirt with your farm name on it, or, a pamphlet that you print out that has information about who you are and what your products and services are. So again, more of an opportunity for that like soft sell for creating that initial relationship with potential people who want to buy from you, and marketing yourself and your business, creating those connections for future buyers, for future sales opportunities. And the last one on here is a food truck. So again, there's probably more, there's a little bit more effort into doing something like that, and it might take more time. But if you have access to a truck already, or maybe it's something you collaborate on with some other partners as part of your business, just another idea or opportunity for selling direct, as opposed to selling through an outside buyer or a wholesale partner that then resells what you're giving them through another outlet. And that is a good segue into indirect markets. So direct is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's direct from you as a farmer, as a business person, to the person that's purchasing the food to eat themselves, or to share with friends and family. And indirect markets are through that third-party buyer, through that potential wholesale partnership, right? So this might look like you selling your food or your products to someplace like a restaurant, a food hub. So Big River Farms is considered a food hub because we have a few different programs that we manage at the farm, like our community-supported agriculture program. We have a group of farmers who can opt into our vendor permit at a farmer's market in the city. And then we have a relationship with other partners within the food group in different departments, to sell some of the food that farmers at Big River Farms grow to a handful of food sales partners throughout the Twin Cities, and Western Wisconsin. So that's kind of that idea of, us as an organization serving as that food hub and being able to work and support you as farmers to get your produce to other indirect markets. Selling to, another buyer, another produce coordinator or manager for a restaurant or a grocery store or church or school. So those are some other ideas on there too, those wholesale partnerships. Thinking about, are there opportunities to sell to some of those kind of institutional organizations, right? Like a school, a church, a hospital, retirement homes can oftentimes have, meal programs or, kitchen cooking programs, providing food to the folks who live there. So a potential wholesale partnership opportunity to sell indirectly to them, and then they use that food to create meals for the elderly folks who live there. Same thing with a potential school wholesale partnership. So an example of that is that Big River Farms and the food group has worked with Minneapolis Public Schools because they have what they call their farm to school program. And that's a wholesale indirect market opportunity to sell your produce to the school system, so Minneapolis Public Schools, and then they use it in either meals they create for students at the schools that they manage and oversee, or they chop it up and process it through a third-party distributor and use it as snacks at like after-school activities, or during COVID the past few years, when schools were all in distance learning, they would buy the produce wholesale and then prepare it and package it into meal kits or into snacks and deliver it directly to students who were learning remotely from home and who weren't able to physically go to the school. But anyways, that's all to say that there's an opportunity to sell through some wholesale indirect market relationships with schools too. And then the last thing on there is grocery stores and food co-ops. You know, that might be a plan of yours a few years down the line if you're just starting out and you're in your first year, and kind of getting yourself established, figuring out your business plan, what markets you want to access. And that can be a great opportunity as you grow and scale up, and have more capacity and have more produce that you're growing and looking for markets to sell it. So think about some of those potential relationships and opportunities too, not only directly with individuals who might buy from you through something like a farmer's market or a CSA share, but as you're thinking about scaling up your business, if that's one of your goals, think about how you do that on a larger scale. And that's a great way, or that's a great connection to have with indirect markets, because oftentimes they're buying in bulk. They're buying, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 or however many produce items in much larger quantities, to resell to lots of people, as opposed to you selling directly to, you know, individuals. So something to think about as your business planning for the future, and thinking about if you want to scale up or not. And then the last bullet point on here is about CSA partnerships with other farms. So I put this on here because we've had buyers, outside wholesale buyers, contact us as an organization looking to purchase food directly from you as farmers in the education program. And examples of that outside of restaurants and schools are other farmers, other local farmers who are serving as aggregators. And what I mean by that is they might be growing their own produce, or they might be raising cattle or chickens, and they want to partner with other farmers who might be growing other types of produce, or creating other types of like value-added products, and then packaging that all together and selling it to individuals who might opt into something like a community-supported agriculture program that they're managing, but they might be working with other outside farmers and partners to source different types of produce or different types of products, to combine into those shares. So kind of another indirect market opportunity, right? You're not selling directly to individuals in that model, but you're working cooperatively or collaboratively with another local farmer to sell multiple types of produce or products and goods, to a whole bunch of customers. And finally, marketing and communications. So we've talked a lot about business planning and all the things that go into that potentially. And this last piece is really about, you know, tools for sharing that information. You know, not necessarily that you need to share your business plan with everybody, but again, how do you promote your business? How do you get the word out there about what you do? How are you creating that story, creating that narrative, both verbally and visually? How are you sharing that story about what you do? So this is really what marketing and communications comes down to. So think about what tools you might use to do that. Tools and techniques to sell your products and services. How will customers know that you exist? How will they find you or discover your business, your farming business, and what you grow or what you offer? How will they learn that story about who you are as an individual, who you are as a farmer, and what you're passionate about, why you're doing what you do, and what you offer? It's really about, you know, the marketing and communications piece of this puzzle is really thinking about, again, telling that story, describing what you do, what you create, and what you sell, and thinking internally as a farmer, as a business person, what's your capacity to do that, to manage this, to do this? Do you want to do it yourself? Do you have other co-partners in your business, family and friends? Are you hiring somebody maybe part-time to assist with some of the marketing and communications? So something to think about, maybe working with a contractor or a freelance marketing assistant to help with that. But again, think about that when you're business planning and what that might look like. Like, what capacity do you have as an individual and a farmer to do some of this work? And does it make sense, you know, time-wise or financially, resource-wise, to hire somebody part-time or to work with an outside contractor to assist with some of this? So again, just think about what tools you'll use, what resources you have access to or exist, and what your strategy might be for going about it. The logos on the right side of this are you know, related to communications and marketing, and are all offer free tiers. Squarespace is a website building platform that you can open a free account with, and it is fairly user-friendly in that you don't need to know, you know, you don't have to be a web developer to know how to use it. You don't have to know the details of computer coding to know how to use it. It's all very visual and template based. So it's easy to kind of drag and drop photos that you upload, or writing in text and adding your own logos and your own photos. And it's a great way to create just kind of a base website, again, to really like promote yourself, to build that brand identity and that awareness, and to have a place online where people can come and find information about who you are, what your story is, where you're located, what you grow, and maybe how to purchase it, or how to find you someplace like at a farmer's market to come speak with you and buy directly from you. MailChimp is I think they have a free tier still. You know, both Squarespace and MailChimp are subscription-based services, so you can pay like either a monthly or an annual fee to get access to additional resources and tools. But I'm pretty sure they both still have free options that don't provide quite as much in-depth resources and tools as you would get with paying, but a good way to kind of, again, get your feet wet and dig into what they offer. So anyways, MailChimp is an e-newsletter platform, and basically it's a way of creating emails using visual templates with photos and, you know, maybe links to your website or links to your social media. Again, a communication tool and a way to connect with potential customers. So, you know, maybe you're thinking about starting off your business by selling directly to friends and family, or to community members, or you know, members of a spiritual community you might be part of, a church or a mosque or a temple. Think about who you already have connections to. That's kind of that low-hanging fruit that you might be able to connect to, people directly in your everyday life, in your communities that you're a part of. Things like social media and e-newsletters might be a great communication tool to connect to those folks when it's not one-to-one, face-to-face, in person. You might already have their contact information, their emails, and can create, you know, a visual email with photos and videos and text and links to send to them to, you know, announce that you have this new business, that you're starting a farm, that you have produce for sale. So that's what MailChimp is that electronic kind of newsletter platform, a way to connect with folks over email. And again, bring in that storytelling, bring in that visual identity, that brand identity, and tell people what you're doing and what you're selling. And the last things on there are just the social, you know, the kind of three main social media platforms that a lot of businesses use to promote their brand, to tell their story. I'm sure you're probably all aware of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. To a certain extent, TikTok is getting bigger in that space too, and is becoming more involved with sales and brands, and less. I mean, there's still a ton of people on there just using it as a social platform to connect with each other, but I think they're diving deeper into trying to do more sales too. But anyways, that's all a way to say that social media can be an option for communicating about yourself, about your business, about your brand. You know, creating a business page on any of those platforms can be a good idea to kind of, again, share those those kind of insights into your business that folks might not get otherwise or elsewhere in something that's a little bit more static, like a website or an e-newsletter. So it's a good way to, again, just get the information out there about your brand, about your business, and what you're doing. And, you know, during occasional updates, you know, photos maybe of what you're doing to prep for the season, or, you know, photos of you starting seeds in the greenhouse, photos of things being grown and harvested, or videos of you harvesting something and packing it up for delivery. There's all sorts of kind of interactive, engaging ways to visualize and communicate what you're doing with a potential audience who will buy from you on a platform like social media. That second bullet point on this slide that says create a multi-channel strategy is really thinking about, again, zooming out big picture, thinking about all the various tools and ways that you can market and communicate yourself, and kind of goes back to that idea of diversifying your market, right? So it's thinking about that from the perspective of diversifying how you share information, how you communicate about your business, about your farming, and about what you're growing and selling. So think about what that strategy might look like for you, and what tools you can use. And then once you think about that and what makes the most sense for you as far as capacity and what your goals are, be consistent with your branding and your messaging across those channels, across those tools. So make sure, you know, that you're using the same logo and the same name for your business, things like that. So there's some consistency, even though you're using all sorts of different tools, right? Potentially like social media, a website, an e-newsletter. Make sure that branding and your messaging about what you do and what you provide is kind of consistent across those different communication platforms, across those different tools. Because that just gets the information in front of people's eyes through different platforms, through different tools, but also shares your brand and creates that consistency so people recognize who you are, or have that idea of what you provide, regardless of what kind of type of media or platform they might come across you on. So that's what that last bullet point is about. It's just being consistent and upholding that idea of, you know, a brand identity, a business identity. And finally, you know, everything listed here is digital based, but think about non-digital based tools for promoting yourself and your brand and your business. Some ideas are, you know, running ads in newspapers, local newspapers, community-based newspapers. An example from Big River Farms for our CSA, our community supported agriculture program, we advertise to that through a few local organizations focused on supporting local farmers. So Land Stewardship Project and Minnesota Grown, which is a offshoot of the Department of Agriculture, have online CSA directories. So you might pay a small membership fee to access those if you're doing your own community supported agriculture program. And they have a big audience of partners they've worked with, and have some advertising money to promote those directories. So that's an opportunity to connect with potential customers. And they have both I think they're still doing physical hard copy paper directories too, that they mail out and they have available for pickup at like grocery stores and churches and things like that. They also have an online directory. So just again, think about like what tools can you use to promote yourself. There's digital options, there's non-digital options like newspapers, directories, magazine ads, postcards and flyers, all sorts of things. So give that some thought too when you're putting together your business plan and a marketing and communications plan. Finally, I'll just share some other opportunities and ideas for digital communications and marketing. It's going to include things like creating a blog. You know, if you have a website, you could create blog posts or share stories in kind of an ongoing feed, and then share those links to your social media pages, or share those links in an electronic newsletter that you're emailing people. And we talked about photos and videos. I think this kind of falls into the digital realm. It's not like print advertising, but there's opportunities to think about radio and TV ads. Those are typically more expensive, but something to maybe research and dig into if there's opportunities for you to promote yourself that way too. All right, we've got about a little under 10 minutes left. So I'm gonna go to the end here and open it up for questions and answers. I talked a lot and there's a lot of information that I shared. So I'm gonna stop talking now and just open it up. If you have any questions or if you wanna share ideas, I'd love to hear from you.
I have a question. So you have the Big River CSA. So if we grow produce, can that be one of the first venues to look at? Because in the first year,
Yeah.
we're not very sure about what the production is going to be like.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Beta. Yeah, this is so historically Big River Farms has had this CSA program that you mentioned that was focused on farmers who are at least in their second year of the program. But this year we're opening it up to all farmers. We're trying to be more inclusive of everybody in the education program. So that's definitely an opportunity as a first-year farmer in the program to participate in that as a market opportunity. And for anybody who's in the education program that's also physically farming at Big River, I'll be hosting a meeting next Thursday evening. I think it's the 27th. Look at my calendar real quick. Yeah, next Thursday, the 27th of January, I'm hosting an intro to the Big River Farm CSA program for first-year farmers. So if you're interested in learning more about that, come check that out. Come to that class on Thursday. It's from 6 to 7 p.m. next Thursday. So yeah, that's a long way of saying, yeah, that's definitely an opportunity as a first-year farmer to participate in if you have access to land at Big River Farms. And it's the first year we're doing it. So we're encouraging first-year farmers to really focus on 1 to 2 specific crops that you might be interested in growing for the CSA. And then we'll think about creating some contracts and talking about that kind of learning process with the hope that other staff members who are on this call and some folks who are not can really provide that like hands-on educational support as you're getting started in the field, as you're doing seed starting and thinking about, crop planning and growing for market. So yeah, thanks for asking that, Beta.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I know Jeff wanted to share some poll questions at the end too. I was going to say too, I know we're running short on time, but if you have other questions or ideas that you want to ask or share, feel free to throw them in the chat by clicking that chat button at the bottom of the Zoom window. Or you can contact me after class too if you want to call or email. I'm always available to discuss things outside of class time too during the week when I'm working. Do you want to share those poll questions, Jeff?
Yep, I'm also just putting your email in the chat. Or do you want to do that while I put the poll up?
Yeah, for sure. I can do that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, y'all. So I am going to share the poll for this session. For those of you who weren't in last session, we will be sharing a poll at the end of each session just to get your feedback and to see kind of where you feel like you would like some help and where we can improve. So if you could take the time. 1 second. It's saying, let's see why I can't. Oh, okay, let's see. Matt, do you mind at the bottom of the screen, it says polls. If you click on that, I think you may have to do it. You click on polls and then I think it says like start or like activate or something.
Yeah, I just clicked on it and clicked launch. Did anything pop up on your screen? Can you see it? Looks like a few
Not
people
mine,
are participating.
But everyone, yeah, okay, cool. Everyone else should be able to see it. Thanks,
Cool.
Matt.
I just threw my email and phone number in the chat box too for everybody if you want to contact me. It's in the chat. Thanks for sharing the poll, Jess. Yeah, it looks like lots of good responses. It looks like a majority of people learned something new. A majority of people said they'll use what they've learned today, and then a majority of people also said yes to wanting help finding markets for promoting their farm business. Awesome. Looks like we're just about at the end of time here. It's almost 3 o'clock. But thank you everybody for coming. I appreciate you all taking time in the afternoon on a Saturday to come and learn more about promoting your farm business and thinking about business planning and marketing and communications. Definitely here as a resource, like I said, you know, my main role at Big River Farms is really supporting the markets and managing the markets that we do internally, like our community supported agriculture program and the farmers market group and the food sales program that I mentioned. But also working directly with you to figure out, you know, what your market goals are and how to connect you directly to potential markets for selling your food. So reach out after class, like I said, if you have questions or if you want to talk more about those opportunities. And I look forward to meeting you all and establishing those relationships more. Hopefully we can meet in person soon, but if not, always happy to talk on the phone or do a video chat too. So thanks again, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Matt. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Matt. Bye.
See you, Neil.